The afternoon had been wrong from the start. 72 degrees in early November, the sun hanging over the Ozarks like a copper penny, and my shirt sticking to my back as I drove the service road up to Blackwood Correctional Facility. I kept the windows down because the truck's AC had died in August, and the air smelled like pine sap and hot dust. By the time I reached the gate, the sweat had dried salt white on my forearms, and the temperature had begun to drop. Fast. That was the thing about the Ozarks in autumn. The day could fool you into thinking it was summer, and then the night came down like a blade. I needed this job. That was the truth I kept turning over as I drove, my fingers drumming the steering wheel to a rhythm I couldn't name. 3 months ago, I'd been a licensed electrician with the Springfield local, married to a woman who still looked at me like I was worth something, and a daughter who drew me pictures of our house with crayons that smelled like wax and possibility. Then came the DUI. Then came the suspension. Then came the divorce papers served at my mother's kitchen table while Sophie watched cartoons in the next room, too young to understand why Daddy was crying into his coffee. Carrie had taken Sophie to Joplin to live with her sister. The child support was 6 weeks behind. The motel in Yancey cost $49 a night, and the mini fridge smelled like mildew and regret. When the email came from Holloway Restoration, triple rate for a single night of electrical assessment, I didn't ask questions. I should have. I pulled up to the chain link fence and killed the engine. The gate was padlocked, but a man was waiting on the other side, leaning against a county sheriff's cruiser that had seen better days. He was maybe 55, 60, wearing a khaki uniform that fit him 20 pounds ago, and he was drinking from a silver thermos that steamed in the sudden cold. When I got out of the truck, he didn't smile. He looked at my coveralls, my toolbox, my face, and then he looked past me at the tree line. "You Hale?" he said. "Marcus, Holloway Restoration sent me." He nodded like I'd confirmed a suspicion he didn't want to have. He unlocked the gate with a key from a ring that held maybe 30 others, and the chain rattled like a snake warning. "Dale Kowalski? I do perimeter. Have since before they closed this place. Closed it in 95, right? 94. December." He held the gate open just wide enough for me to squeeze through, and when I passed him, I caught the smell of his thermos. Coffee cut with something sharper. Bourbon, maybe. It wasn't even 6 o'clock. You know why they pay triple for night work? Because nobody wants to drive out here at midnight for minimum wage. Because the last 3 guys quit on night 1. He locked the gate behind me. The click was loud in the stillness, and the 3 before that didn't finish their assessments either, just left their tools and walked. I laughed. It came out sounding thin. "Ghost stories don't scare me, Dale. I've worked condemned hospitals, flood-damaged morgues. Place like this is just concrete and bad wiring." "Sure." He handed me a 2-way radio from his belt. Channel 4. "Patricia Vance checks in every hour. You need me, you call. But Marcus." He waited until I looked at him. His eyes were the color of faded denim, and they didn't blink enough. "Don't go below the first basement. The lower levels are condemned. County orders. Flooding, structural instability. You name it. I'll be in the basement electrical room. That's the job. First basement only, the stairs going down from there are chained. Leave them chained." I took the radio. "You got it." He walked back to his cruiser, and I watched him go. The sun was touching the ridge now, bleeding red into the pines. When he started the engine and drove off, the sound of the gravel under his tires seemed to last too long, echoing off the prison's east wall. Then it was gone, and I was alone with a building that looked like a concrete bunker someone had tried to disguise as a government facility. Blackwood was 3 stories of reinforced concrete and narrow windows, built in 1962 when architecture believed in punishment. The front entrance was a steel door set back in a concrete recess, and above it, someone had painted over the words, "Department of Corrections," so many times that the letters showed through the gray like bruises. I found the key Patricia had mailed me, an actual physical key, not a card, which should have been my first clue, and unlocked the door. The smell hit me before the darkness did. Not just dust, though there was plenty of that. Not just mildew or old concrete. There was something underneath it, a dry, metallic scent like a hardware store left too long in the heat. Ozone. And beneath that, something organic I couldn't place. I clicked on my mag light and swept the beam across the lobby, The floor was linoleum, cracked and curling at the edges. A reception desk sat in the center, its surface scarred with cigarette burns. On the wall behind it, a clock was stopped at 11:47. I don't know why I noticed that. I just did. Behind the desk, a hallway led deeper into the building. I swept my light across it and saw doors, some open, some closed, all with small wire-reinforced windows. The silence in there wasn't empty. It was the silence of a held breath. I found the stairwell to the basement and started down. My boots rang on the metal steps, and the sound carried up into the dark above me like I was dropping stones into a well. The first basement was a utility level, boilers, water mains, and the main electrical panel. The air down there was 10 degrees cooler than the lobby, and my breath showed in the flashlight beam. I found the panel room behind a steel door marked high voltage. That's when things started to feel wrong in a way I couldn't shake. The panel was a Westinghouse from the 80s, the kind I'd worked on a dozen times in commercial buildings. But the breakers inside were new. Not refurbished, new. Square D models, manufactured in 2023, still shiny where the factory oil hadn't worn off. The wiring was fresh copper, the insulation pink and clean, run through conduit that didn't have a speck of rust. I ran my fingers along the bus bars and felt the hum of live current. Someone had been here, recently. Very recently. I pulled out my multimeter and checked the load. 240 volts on the main, steady as a heartbeat. That was impossible for a building that had been dark for 30 years. I checked the sub-panels. 3 of them, all live, all drawing current. Someone was using power, a lot of it. I traced the new conduit runs with my flashlight and saw they went deeper into the building, down through the floor, toward the lower basement Dale had warned me about. I keyed the radio. "Patricia, this is Marcus. I'm at the panel." I keyed the radio. "Patricia, this is Marcus. I'm at the panel." Static. Then her voice, crisp and professional, with the faint compression of a cell phone routed through a repeater. "Go ahead, Marcus. The panel's been serviced. New breakers, new runs. This isn't a decommissioned system. I'm reading live load on 3 sub-panels, and the new conduit runs down through the floor. Someone's been drawing serious power down here." A pause. "The county did some maintenance in 2019, flood prevention, backup pumps. Backup pumps don't need a 300 amp service upgrade, and they don't draw 240 steady for 30 years. Another pause, longer this time. Document what you see. We need load capacity for the renovation. Have you checked room 2014 yet?" "I just got here. I'm in the basement. Room 2014 is on the 2nd floor, east wing. We need to know if the outlets on that circuit are live. Check it before you finish the panel." I frowned. I'm an electrician, not a general contractor. Outlet testing isn't. Triple rate covers flexibility, Mr. Hale. Room 2014 before midnight. She clicked off. I stood in the hum of the panel and listened to the building settle around me. Concrete doesn't creak like wood, but it moves. It groans. Somewhere above me, a drop of water hit metal with a ping that was too loud. I checked my watch. 6:42 p.m. I had time, but I didn't want it. I wanted to be back in my truck, driving down this mountain, away from the hum of current that shouldn't exist, and the smell of ozone that was starting to remind me of something I couldn't name. I took the stairs to the 2nd floor. The 2nd floor was different. Warmer. That didn't make sense, heat rises, but the building had no active climate control. Still, as I pushed through the fire door, the air wrapped around my face like a damp cloth. The hallway stretched left and right, cells on one side, windows on the other. The cell doors were open, all of them, standing at 45 degrees like someone had stopped mid-evacuation. My flashlight beam caught a name scratched into one of the doors. R. Mendez, 1994. I walked faster. The cells were empty, but not abandoned. In one, a mattress lay on the bunk, the fabric faded but intact. In another, a paperback book sat on a shelf, its pages swollen with humidity. In a third, a calendar hung on the wall, stopped at December 1994, but the paper wasn't yellowed the way it should have been after 3 decades. It looked like someone had hung it there last year and forgotten to change the month. I stopped at cell 208. The door was closed, which was strange because all the others were open. I pushed it. It swung inward with a whine of rusted hinges. Inside, the bunk was made. Not just occupied made, with military precision, the blanket folded at the corners. On the small metal desk, a pen lay next to a notepad. The notepad had writing on it. I aimed my light at the page. A list of names written in careful block letters. 12 names. The last one was mine, Marcus Hale. Below it, a date, today's date, and a single word, pending. I backed out of the cell and pulled the door shut. My hands were shaking so badly I had to press them against my thighs to make them stop. The hallway seemed longer than it had been. The shadows behind the open cell doors seemed deeper. I walked faster, my boots loud on the concrete, and I didn't look at the names on the doors anymore. Room 214 was at the end of the east wing, but it wasn't a cell. The plaque beside the door read Administrative Services. I tried the handle, unlocked. The door swung inward and my light swept across a desk, 2 filing cabinets, and a chair on casters. The footprints were the first thing. They crisscrossed the dust on the floor. Rubber-soled, size 11 or 12, recent. Then I saw the coffee cup on the desk, a ceramic mug, white with a chip on the rim, half full of liquid. I touched it, lukewarm. My hand was shaking now, and I made a fist to stop it. On the desk, beneath the mug, was a newspaper, the Yancey Gazette. I aimed my light at the date, November 3rd, 2 days ago. I stood very still and listened. The building had a heartbeat, not a metaphorical one, but the actual thrum of the electrical system I'd just been examining. But there was something else. A rhythm. Breathing? No, 2 regular footsteps, maybe, on the floor above me, or below. The sound was hard to place. I picked up the newspaper and folded it into my back pocket. Evidence. Of what? I didn't know yet. But my mouth had gone dry, and I was tapping my flashlight against my thigh without realizing it. Then I saw the chair. It was turned slightly toward the door as if someone had stood up in a hurry. On the seat was a jacket. A woman's blazer, navy blue with a name tag pinned to the lapel. P. Vance. I didn't touch it. I didn't want to know if it was warm. The radio crackled. Marcus. Status on room 214? I keyed it. The outlets are live. And Patricia? Someone's been here recently. There's a coffee cup still warm, a newspaper from this week, and a jacket with your name on it. Silence. Then, that's impossible, Mr. Hale. The building's been sealed. Then unseal it and come see for yourself. Silence. Then, check the basement stairs, the ones below the utility level. Confirm they're chained. County requirement. I almost laughed. You want me to verify a chain right now? Confirm the chain, Mr. Hale. Then proceed with your panel assessment. She clicked off. I looked at the coffee cup again. The liquid inside was dark, and there was a lipstick mark on the rim. Coral pink. I left the room and pulled the door shut behind me, harder than I meant to. The slam echoed down the cell block, and somewhere in the dark, something answered. A scrape, metal on concrete, from the stairwell. I told myself it was a rat. Prisons have rats, but rats don't wear lipstick. The first basement was as I'd left it, but the air had changed. The ozone smell was stronger, and now there was something else underneath it. Sweat. Not mine. The smell of a room where people had been working, breathing, exuding. I found the stairwell at the far end of the utility room, the one going down. A heavy chain was looped through the handles, secured with a padlock. I tested it with my hand. The chain was cold, stiff, and the lock clicked when I shook it. Secure. But the air coming up from below was warm, and it was moving. I knelt and put my palm against the gap at the bottom of the door. A draft, steady and warm, like someone had left a heater running 2 floors down. I pressed my ear to the steel. At first, nothing. Then a voice. Muffled male speaking in a tone that sounded like instruction. Then another voice, responding. Then silence. Then the hum of machinery, not the building's old systems. Something else. Something active. I stood up and backed away. My radio was in my hand, and I realized I'd been holding it so tight my knuckles ached. I keyed it. Dale, you copy? Static. Dale, this is Marcus. I'm hearing voices below the first basement, the chained door. You there? More static? Then Marcus. Dale's voice low and rough. Where are you right now? Basement 1, the chained stairs. Don't open that door. I didn't. It's chained. But there's air coming through, warm air. And I heard, listen to me. His voice dropped to a whisper, or maybe he was just far from his radio. You need to leave now. Walk out the front, get in your truck, and drive. Don't run. Don't look back at the building. Just drive. What the hell is going on, Dale? The chain isn't supposed to keep people out, Marcus. It's supposed to keep them in. And if they're talking, that means they know someone's up there. I didn't ask who they were. I was already moving. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my toolbox banging against my knee, and burst through the lobby doors into the night. The cold hit me like a wall. 38 degrees, maybe lower. My breath plumed white. I ran to the gate and grabbed the chain link, shaking it. Locked. Dale had the key. I pulled out my phone. No signal. Of course not. I was in a valley between ridges surrounded by concrete and steel. I keyed the radio again. Dale, the gate's locked. Where are you? I'm gone, Marcus. I shouldn't have left. I shouldn't have taken the money. But I'm gone. Come back. Unlock the gate. I can't. If they see my cruiser, they'll know I warned you. I'm sorry. Check the back of the property. There's a storm drain from the old laundry. It comes out in the woods, east side. Follow the fence until you see the water tower. Who are they, Dale? What is this place? But the radio was dead. I looked back at the prison. The 3rd floor was dark, but I thought I saw a light move behind one of the narrow windows. A flashlight. Sweeping. Searching. I ran along the fence line, my boots slipping on the frost-slick grass. The fence was 12 feet high with razor wire on top, but at the back corner, near where the laundry building leaned like a drunk against the main structure, I found the storm drain. It was a concrete culvert, 4 feet in diameter, with a rusted grate that had been pried loose and leaned against the fence post. The opening breathed warm air into the night. I didn't want to go in, but I could hear the lobby door opening behind me, back at the front of the building. A voice called out, not shouting, just loud enough to carry. Mr. Hale, we're here for your safety. Please come back inside. A man's voice. Calm. Professional. The kind of voice that wears a polo shirt and carries a clipboard. But I hadn't told anyone my name except Dale and Patricia. I crawled into the drain. The tunnel was concrete, sloped slightly downward, and it smelled of detergent and mildew and that same metallic undertone I'd noticed in the lobby. I moved in a crouch, my flashlight beam bouncing off the curved walls, my knees screaming, my back cramping. The tunnel ran straight for maybe 100 yards, then split, left or right. I didn't know which way led out. I chose right. The tunnel narrowed, and I had to walk bent nearly double. My coveralls snagged on something, and when I reached back to free them, my hand touched fabric. Hanging from a pipe above me, a jumpsuit. Orange. The kind prisoners wear. It was dry, clean, and the name tag was still stitched to the chest. Mendez, R., the same name I'd seen on the cell door. I kept moving. The tunnel opened into a larger space, a utility junction with pipes running overhead, and a metal ladder bolted to the wall. Above me, I could see a circle of lighter dark. A manhole cover. I climbed, my boots slipping on the rungs, my shoulders brushing the walls. I pushed the cover up. It didn't budge. I put my shoulder into it, grunting, my face hot with effort and fear. It shifted, scraped, and then I was pushing it aside, cold air rushing down, and I hauled myself out into the woods. I was behind the prison, maybe 200 yards into the tree line. The pines were thick here, and the fog from the river valley had crept up the slope, turning the world into a gray soup. I could see the prison's back wall through the trees, and I could see lights. 3rd floor, multiple windows, glowing yellow, figures moving past them. Not shadows, people. I counted 3, then 4, then a 5th, and I saw Dale. He was standing by the fence near where I'd entered the drain, smoking a cigarette. The orange tip glowed bright in the fog. He was looking up at the 3rd floor, and his posture was strange, not afraid, not vigilant, resigned. Like a man waiting for a bus he knew was late. I called out to him. My voice cracked. He turned. In the moonlight, his face was gray and his eyes were holes. He didn't look surprised, he looked tired. "You weren't supposed to make it out," he said. "They don't like it when they have to come down." "Dale, what is this place? Who are they?" He flicked the cigarette into the grass. "Holloway Restoration. Ever heard of them?" "I work for them." "No, you don't." He walked toward me, and I backed up until my shoulder hit a pine trunk. Holloway doesn't exist. It's a filing cabinet in a strip mall in Little Rock. A P.O. box, a voice on a radio. What exists is the contract, and the contract says Blackwood needs certain services, electrical, plumbing, structural, and it pays triple because the workers don't file complaints afterward. I thought of the 3 electricians before me, the ones who left their tools. What happens to the workers, Dale? He looked at the ground. Some of them stay. They get offered a job, good benefits, housing provided. The kind of job you can't quit, but you never have to worry about rent again. He looked up at me. Others, they become the reason for the next contract. Infrastructure needs maintenance. Systems need testing. You understand? I understood. I wished I didn't, but I did. The prison hadn't closed. It had just stopped existing on paper. Private. Off-grid. The kind of place where people who fell through the cracks ended up, and where people who fixed things were brought in to keep the lights on. Literally. "They're coming," Dale said. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking past me, down the slope toward the river. Headlights. 2 sets, maybe 3, bouncing on the access road. "I have to go. If they find me here, I'm in the next maintenance cycle." "Dale, run, Marcus. Don't go to your truck. They know your truck. Follow the ridge line north. There's a fire road. It'll take you to Highway 14. Don't stop. Don't call the police in Yancey. Half of them are on the contract." He turned and walked to his cruiser, which I'd somehow missed in the fog. It started without him turning the headlights on, and he drove away, the red taillights vanishing into the gray. I ran. The ridge was steeper than it looked. My boots slipped on pine needles, and branches whipped my face. The fog swallowed sound, so I couldn't tell if anyone was behind me. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs shook, until I stumbled into a clearing and saw the phone booth. It was an actual phone booth, the kind you see in movies, glass and aluminum, standing at a crossroads where a dirt track met a paved county road. The light inside was on, a fluorescent buzz that sounded like insects. I yanked the door open and picked up the receiver. It was heavy Bakelite, and there was a dial tone. I dialed 911. It rang twice. Then, emergency dispatch, Yancey County. "I need help. I'm at." I looked out the booth window. The fog had cleared enough to show me the prison on the hill, every window blazing with light, cars in the parking lot. I'm near Blackwood Correctional, the abandoned prison. There are people there. They're holding people. They tried to. "Sir." The dispatcher's voice was female, young, and too calm. "Can you confirm your location?" "Blackwood. The old prison off Route H." A pause. "Sir, Blackwood Correctional Facility was decommissioned in 1994. There's no active phone line at that address." "I'm not at the prison. I'm in a phone booth, on the county road." Another pause, longer. "Sir, there are no phone booths on that road. The last one was removed in 2008. I looked at the phone in my hand. The cord was frayed where it entered the receiver. The coin slot was rusted shut. And when I followed the cord down to the base, I saw that it wasn't plugged into anything. It lay coiled on the metal shelf, the jack end clean and silver, disconnected. "Sir? Are you there?" I hung up. Or I tried to. The receiver clicked, but the line didn't go dead. I could still hear breathing. Not the dispatchers. Someone else. Then a voice, Patricia's voice, came through the dead line. "Mr. Hale, you left your tools in room 2121. Please return to complete your assessment. We paid triple for completion." I dropped the receiver. It swung on its cord, banging against the glass. I backed out of the booth and ran again, this time along the paved road, my boots hammering asphalt, my chest heaving. I ran until I saw the lights of a gas station, a real one, with a real payphone outside and a clerk inside who looked at me like I was a wild animal. He let me use the phone, the real one. I called the state police. I don't remember much of the next few hours. I remember a trooper with a kind face and a notepad. I remember giving a statement. I remember them driving me back to Yancey, but not to the prison, to the sheriff's station, where a sergeant with a mustache that hid his upper lip made coffee that tasted like burnt tires. Morning came gray and cold. The sergeant sat across from me in an interrogation room that smelled of lemon disinfectant. He had a file. Manila, unlabeled. "Mr. Hale, we checked out Blackwood. Like you asked." "And?" "Power's been off since 1994. Basement's flooded, has been for years. The county inspector was there last month. Photos, reports, the whole thing. The second floor? Ceilings collapsed in 3 places. Room 214 doesn't exist anymore. It's a storage closet full of moldy maps." I stared at him. "That's not possible. I was there. I touched the panel. I saw. You saw what you saw. I'm not saying you didn't." He opened the file. "But here's what we found when we ran your name. Holloway Restoration. No business license in Missouri, Arkansas, or Oklahoma. No tax records. The check they sent you? It cleared. $50,000 deposited in your account at 2 a.m. this morning. Anonymous wire transfer. I didn't. There's more." He slid a photograph across the table. It was a security camera still, time-stepped 6:03 p.m. the previous evening. It showed the front gate of Blackwood. A man in electrician's coveralls was unlocking the chain link with a key. The man's face was clear in the sodium light. It was mine. "That's me arriving," I said. He slid another photo, time-stamped 9:47 p.m. Same gate, same man, same coveralls. But the gate was open, and the man was carrying a toolbox out, walking calmly, no sign of distress. "That's impossible," I whispered. "I was in the tunnels. I was running through the woods." He slid a third photo, 11:15 p.m. The lobby of the prison. The man in coveralls was sitting at the reception desk, reading a newspaper, the Yancey Gazette, November 3rd. He was drinking from a white ceramic mug. I looked at my hands. They were clean, too clean. No scrapes from the tunnel walls, no pine sap, no mud. But when I turned them over, my fingernails were caked with something white, dust. The same dust from room 214. "Mr. Hale." The sergeant closed the file. "We've had 3 other electricians report similar incidents at Blackwood this year. Same story, triple pay, night shift, mysterious goings-on. But every time we investigate, the place is empty. Condemned, hazardous to enter, and every time, the electrician in question has a history. Gambling debts, substance issues, a record. Something that makes them hard to believe. I thought of my DUI, my divorce, the child support I couldn't pay, the way I'd lied on the Holloway application about my criminal history. What are you saying? I'm saying you can go. There's no crime here, no evidence of a crime, just an abandoned building and a man who had a rough night." He stood up. "But I'd stay in town if I were you. Someone's going to want to finish that assessment." He left me in the room. I sat there for a long time, listening to the building creak, smelling the lemon disinfectant. Then I emptied my pockets onto the table. Wallet, keys, the newspaper I'd taken from room 2014. I unfolded it. The date was November 3rd, but the year was 1994. I sat very still. I remembered the stopped clock in the lobby, 11:47. I remembered the name on the cell door, Mendez. I remembered the jumpsuit in the tunnel, clean and dry, And I remembered something else, something I hadn't let myself think until now. The coffee in the mug had been lukewarm. But I'd been in that building for 3 hours. If someone had left it before I arrived, it should have been cold. Unless they were still there. Unless they never left. I checked my wallet. The money was there. The 50,000. But there was something else. A card. Plastic. White. With a magnetic strip. An employee ID. My photo. My name. Marcus Hale. Night Supervisor. Blackwood Correctional Facility. Issue date, November 4th, 2023. Valid through never. I walked out of the station into a morning that felt false. The sun was too bright. The air was too still. My truck was in the parking lot, though I didn't remember driving it there. The engine started on the first try. I sat with my hands on the wheel, looking at the road that led out of Yancey, toward Joplin, toward my daughter, toward a life that felt like a story someone had told me about a stranger. Then I looked in the rearview mirror. In the back seat, folded neatly on the bench, were my coveralls. Clean, pressed, and on top of them, a two-way radio, channel 4, the red light blinking slow and steady. I don't know if I ever really left. I don't know if anyone ever does. The road out of Yancey goes 2 ways, north to the highway, south, back to the prison. I sat there until the sun was high, and then I put the truck in drive. I still haven't decided which way I turned.